Good evening. Today is September 30th. This is a meeting of the Revere City Council's Ways and Means Subcommittee. In attendance, we have Council President Ira Novoselsky, Councilors Janino, Guanasso, and Haz from the committee, and Councilor Patch. Tonight we have two items on the agenda. Number 13-233, which is a bond for the construction project of emergency funding loan order in the amount of $2 million for repairs to the Winthrop Avenue wastewater system. And we have item number 13-235, loan order in the amount of $1.5 million for the purpose of purchasing 2 fire trucks. I am going to, in the interest of time for the fire chief, I'm going to take up the second item on our agenda first. Fire Chief Doherty, I'll give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about this loan order. Thank you.
There it is, green. Oh, that's green. Oh, but let's see that. That was the elderly mistake there. I apologize. Eugene Doherty, Fire Chief, City of Revere. The request that we have before you this evening is for a bond authorization to purchase 2 fire trucks, 2 pumpers, in addition to other equipment that involved with the engines and personal protective equipment for firefighters. The engines we are purchasing will be obviously 2014 models, and they are replacing 2004s. The current 2004s are the engine 1 that is down Revere Beach Parkway and engine 4 that is at Broadway. They're very similar as to what we have, other than being 10 years and different standards that are required. And in addition, they're both going to be foam capable. So all our apparatus, all the pumpers will be able to apply foam at any type incident as well. We originally got prices for these engines. One was for $585,000, and the second being similar, and that they cut down on their engineering costs. I looked to CDM. And they said that the second one would only be at $569,000. We did participate in a collaborative bid with Malden and Medfit. The bids were opened on Friday, and the prices of the 2 pumps went down to $560,000 each. So it's considerable savings by going to a collaborative bid. And in addition to that, with the CFO, Anzoni, if we do timely payments, it'll drop another $10,000 each. So it's as high as it is for this equipment, we are saving some money. It takes about anywhere from 6.5 to 8 months to get these. And they are engineered, go through a process, inspection such as that, and we hope to see them sometime in the spring. The 2 engines that were being replaced, the 2004s, will be put into reserve status. Our current reserve pump is at 1995. We're hoping to either sell that or trade it. We don't know what our best deal will be on that. We won't get much for it, but it is still a good, viable reserve. We'll be in a very good position with these 2004s being our reserve apparatus. As frontline pieces, according to National Fire Protection Association, the standard that we go by in the fire service for direction as to equipment and how we inspect things and everything such as that in the industry, as a frontline apparatus, the 2004s, they're taking a beating, and we're currently putting in good money into bad sometimes. We're replacing quite a bit. Life expectancy for a fire pump or an engine is 10 years. So we'll be just hitting on that right away. And then have the ability to have them as reserve pumps for anything from when we go down for repairs, preventive maintenance, or special events, when we're opening maybe the Point of Pine station, or we're putting additional people on for storms, such as that. We'll have the ability and capability of having the necessary equipment to do it. The personal protective equipment that's added on to this is for the gear, the turnout gear, they call it, for the firefighters wear. Same thing as this with the engines. We purchased a lot of it back in 2004. At that time, we got it on a grant. I just recently, this past fiscal year, I applied for another grant, and the government saw fit to kind of lower the pool of monies there, and we didn't make that cut, and we didn't get a grant on that. But that gear alone is approximately $2,000 a set, and the firefighters should have 2 sets of that gear. Currently, everybody has pretty much an okay set, specifically the new firefighters that we've hired in the last few years. But the backup set that they have now is totally inadequate and doesn't fit the safety requirements that we look for firefighters. They would be getting, I put in for 100 sets. We won't get that many. We don't totally need that many, but once we take a inspection of all the gear we have and make that determination. And then in addition to that will be the ancillary equipment that will go with the new engines, so that we're able to have, the new engines will have all the equipment necessary. We won't be taking equipment off other engines and sparing things and cutting back. It is far better that we have a turnkey operation with these spare pumps and the new pumps, that they get new hose. We're due for new hose as well, nozzles, different things such as that. We don't have to buy SCBAs, the air packs, which is a very high item. They go for almost $7,000 a piece. I recently got a grant for those, for 40 of them, to the tune of $250,000. So we're very fortunate that we will have a replacement for all our SCBAs. We got those, the ones we currently have, back in prior to 2004, and so with the new ones, we'll be in a very good condition, good shape. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Councilor Hatz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, Gene, with these two new, it brings you up to code without question.
Correct.
And with the advent of the 2 pumpers, you're going to get those next year. Okay, is that what the plan is? And you're going to keep those 2 for the future?
Firm reserve, correct.
Reserve, okay. As far as, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said it's very expensive to maintain these vehicles that are on front line.
Correct, with their age,
With
their current age.
age, right?
Correct.
Why is it that with the new apparatuses out there making all these runs, we don't look at going to another type of fighting apparatus at a much reduced cost? Is there any reason?
Well, this is the equipment that we have bid out or spec'd out is similar to what we've been purchasing over a number of years.
Right.
We try to maintain that. The firefighters that are trained with this equipment, I believe it provides us the ability with these specifications for these engines to provide an overall service to the community that gives us that capability of firefighting and carrying equipment and things such as that. You can get a lesser engine pumper, pay less. You may not get the duration for the amount of calls that we go on. That's another factor.
We do a tremendous amount.
Yeah, we're just under 9,000 incidents, I know it's not documented, but emergency incidents per year now.
Medical aids are unbelievable.
Yeah, they're very quite high.
Yeah.
And there's this school of thought now, there are some communities that are attempting to do a smaller type response with like an SUV for certain medical calls, but prioritizing those type calls, saying something that's not a true emergency, things like that. Extremely difficult, extremely libelous, liability-wise. Do you make the wrong call? Somebody gives you certain symptoms that they have, and it turns out that it's, a true heart attack, and you don't have enough people. Spokane, Washington is one of the first ones. Everybody's kind of watching them right now. They're putting 1 or 2 firefighters in a SUV and shooting them out the door to do some medicals.
Right.
The idea behind our system, our emergency medical system and response is that, yes, we are throwing this big, very expensive fire truck out there into these medical calls, and a lot of them are not necessary, you could say, but it gives us the ability to have firefighters immediately ready to go to any type medical call within so many minutes, and you don't want to be on the other end of that call if we say, okay, we're not going to send the fire trucks out, we're going to send maybe less personnel, things like that, and you truly need it. You're at the other end of the call with difficulty breathing or heavy bleeding or somebody's unresponsive, and we always err on the side of caution for that we send more than we might need on a lot of calls. And it works out every few calls that's the right call. So you don't want to play that roulette game that maybe we're...
And I'm glad to see, Chief, that you're considering Ward 5, the opening of the fire station. I don't want to put words in your mouth,
no,
but,
and the mayor's not here.
Right.
I'm sure he's watching. But we have, you do always have to have a plan, and I'm very cognizant of that. And that station's been closed since '92, and it was a numbers game at the time. But the population of the households is increasing down in that area, and the mayor and I have had conversations, as with you, the councilors here, that at a certain point when some developments start taking off down there within the next year and a half, 2 years, it is going to be a necessity to reopen that station. So with that plan, we're repairing the station. We've been able to allocate some monies and get things, get it repaired so it's ready to go. And we use it now anyways, but have it ready to go and be prepared to hopefully open it. And if things work out all around through the city if development takes place, then we're ready.
Thank you, Councilor Hatch. The chairman would like to recognize Councilor Powers, who is also in attendance. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on what you just said earlier, Chief, there won't be any need to worry about not paying the bill on time. If we produce this loan order, we'll have all the monies ready to pay, so we will get that reduction benefit for paying on time.
Correct.
So that's a given. We're going to get that.
Yes. I mean, have done this in the past, but communities have run into trouble, whatever the case may be. The bond authorization with the guidance that I've had with CFO and zoning. This is the best bet to go, and how he advertises for the bonds and when they come out, and by the time we're getting the apparatus and signing the contracts and things such as that. So it allows us a lot more leeway in the timeline of doing this.
I think it's cost effective, and I think that's the way to do it. I just wanted to touch base on something you were speaking earlier with the other council. In reference to the medical aid,
Yes.
Isn't it a fact that once the alarm goes out for medical aid, also an ambulance is dispatched to that location?
Correct.
And it's generally about 3-4 minutes later that company comes?
It can be up to 3 to 4 minutes, maybe longer, depending on how many calls we have. This city, we have a tremendous amount of medical calls. Elderly population. I hate to say, sometimes the drug situation, and we get multiple medical calls within an hour, and the ambulance provider is able to give us enough ambulances to handle that. So within an hour, we might have 8-9 medical calls just back to back.
So the point I make is, I think it would be prudent upon us to investigate further the probability of using other medical vehicle whereas it's going to be followed up anyway with an ambulance, which would have
Correct.
all the necessary equipment and trained personnel within it to service. And I'm speaking from someone, Chief, who's had to use this service
Right.
personally a couple of times these past couple of years, myself and my family. So I'm speaking about something that I have some knowledge on, but I would still feel pretty assured that medical aid was on the way, given the fact that the ambulances are coming along too.
Correct.
And I think it's worthy of us to investigate that. If we can put like 5 years more on the longevity of a pumper, then let's explore some avenues, because it's much cheaper to run obviously an SUV than it
No
is
question.
a pumper.
But that would mean, right now, with the placement of our fire stations, and it's been designed that it's an overlapping districts, so that we can get a piece of fire equipment to any call, whether fire or medical, within the longest period, obviously, is the Point of Pines, which is 4.5 minutes to get to. For most of the city, it's 1.5 to 3.5 minutes. And that's critical on a medical call for that, where
I agree.
brain damage or things such as that, for the cessation of breathing at 4.5 minutes. But we are looking, as you're saying, at that. Is that the future? Is that how they're going to handle it? Since the medical calls are up, fire prevention has given us less.
Wouldn't it be safe to
fires.
say that the medical calls outdo the regular fire alarm calls 8 to 1, something like that?
It's not 8 to 1, but it is. We're up in, I would say, in the low 60s, 60% of our calls.
That's quite a bit.
Other than fire, yeah. But we've also kind of broadened our service to the community. I mean, the fire department is kind of a catch-all. Fire, rescue, motor vehicle accidents. It just has hazardous materials. We've kind of broadened our span of control over different things. So that has increased, and we have taken on different duties, trained our personnel to different levels to go with the growing population and to how society as a whole is going on, and the needs for society and the assistance they might need.
Yeah,
The only thing with the SUVs, I might say, is that we would have to have a comparable amount of SUVs to give you that time frame. Because you can't, that's the key thing is with us going, the fire apparatus going to these calls is, yes, the ambulance is coming, but sometimes it's coming 8 to 10 minutes, and it's critical that we get people there to at least stabilize the individual to see what can be done for them.
Right.
But
Thank
we
you.
are looking towards it.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Janino.
Thank you. I think that one of the things that Revere is known for is our fire department. So I think that any improvements that we can make to our fire department are crucial. And it's one of those services that hopefully you only have to use, once in a lifetime. And it could make the difference to save your life that one time you do have to call. So I think without question, when you're talking about new equipment to keep our firefighters safe and new apparatuses to protect our residents, it's really something that you have to do. And I want it to be something that we're continuing to be known for, because what's a community if it's not a safe community? And I want all the people out there to know that, if they have a medical call or if something happens, there's someone that's going to be there right away. You don't want to have to worry about older equipment or repairing equipment. And I think financially it makes more sense to purchase these vehicles that we'll have for another 10 years and keep pouring money into ones that are going to go in a year or two anyway. So I absolutely support you, and thank you for coming up tonight.
Thank you. I mean, we've been fortunate, but going back as far as Mayor Haas was there, the fire department kind of evolved into the point where we made a concerted effort to get new equipment on a regular basis, and that is key. If you don't reinvest into that equipment, and you have a piece of apparatus out there that's 14, 18, 19 years old, and when it comes crunch time, and all of a sudden that's not going to work, and it's hitting the fan, it's not good.
Thank you, Councilor Janino. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gene, you just made a good point. I know myself, being in public safety with the police in the mid-'70s, it wasn't a priority equipment. It really wasn't. It was actually was a disgrace. And, it's very important for the people that have to work, maybe more so in the fire
Right.
than the police. But you know, and as far as the medical calls, you know, the SUV is a good, that's good, maybe a good idea for different types of medical calls, but I know, you know, from driving a police cruiser that a lot of people don't get out of the way, even if you have the lights and siren going. But a fire truck, they get out of the way when that's coming. If that's coming down behind you. So I mean, it has its good points, but again, like Councilor Garasso said, that, you know, for saving the life term of the engine, that you know, it could possibly using those other vehicles would be good. But I want to commend you on your fine job you're doing there at the Revere Fire. You got the department's getting younger.
Yes.
As you see, and
They want me out, I think. I am the oldest. So
you're right, you know, and it's amazing how the change, but they're very efficient. They're very, you know, you're doing a good job.
Just a sidelight, I wrote a grant a few years back, well, back in 2003, I guess it was, and it was a wellness grant. And the reason we won the wellness grant is the average age of the firefighters was 47 years old. And we've dropped dramatically in the last few years on that basis, you know. And it does, the stress and whatnot, it leads to more injuries and heart attacks and things such as that.
And just one other point I'd like to make is, and also I got to commend the way that you have run the reserve unit also, because it does keep the Revere people. It gives them. It seems like they've been getting eventually get the job with the way you have set up the system. I've been an advocate of trying to do that in the police department for years, but I get fears when they just don't want to listen. But I wish they'd had the same policy. But again, thanks for doing a good job. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Patch. Council Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gene, I certainly want to commend you on your, taking the bull by the horns. It's not an easy thing to come up to the city council and ask for $1 million or close to it or a little over. I also want to commend you for the statement you made earlier with regard to the $250,000 in grants that you've received. That's a tremendous thing, particularly when we're operating on very tight budgets these days. $250,000 is an awful lot of money. And I certainly want to commend you for that. With regard to engine 2 down in Point of Pines, I'm on the same page as you are, certainly. And, our population has increased by 10% in the past 10 years. Probably a lot more since that station has been closed. More motor vehicles, many more medical emergencies. And the response time is somewhat increased when you're getting into the St. George, Satter House, Seaview Towers, the breakers, because when they go in, they have to get on that elevator. And, whether it's 30 seconds or 45 seconds, whatever it is, it's critical. So I think those are all the reasons that station should open, and I know you're working toward that goal, and I'm very grateful for that, having representing that area down there. And I think I heard the comments made earlier, and I can understand why they're being made about SUVs, box trucks, as they call them in Florida, I guess. I don't think there's anything more effective, but particularly when you're going to a motor vehicle accident, than a fire engine getting there with all of the right equipment to extract a person from that vehicle, or even in some cases underneath the vehicle. And I can say that firsthand. I know I've had that experience in my family. And to me, the fire department is, and I'm not demeaning any other department in the city, but that's the most effective and efficient department in the city for my money. And I'll continue to support you, whatever you need in that department. I mean, you cannot put a price on public safety, whether it be fire or police. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add, you opened the door for me. On the grants, we're also getting another grant that has nothing to do with this, but we're getting a little over $400,000 to replace all our equipment up in the reservoir, the radios, antennas, and everything like that. Same thing. We're able to get this money out of the Urban Area Security Initiative, so it's a great plus. We recently got pet shelter supplies as well on a grant. They found the biggest hurdle at Hurricane Katrina was people with pets. That one, they wouldn't evacuate because of their pet, or two, they got to the shelter and they had nowhere to put the animals. So we're getting a trailer now. They've been shipping in all the equipment. We've gotten 75 collapsible crates for animals. We have 500 pet go bags that goes to each dog and cat that might come in. We have all the medical equipment for animals. So we're that much far ahead in a lot of communities. We have the shelter equipment for our citizens, but pets is quite the thing to do. But the grants are going along fairly well. We've been able to ascertain some money. I'm trying to get another $250,000 to get a new fireboat. I'm doing the one we have is a hand-me-down from Massport that we got, and it's a 91. So we're trying to get a new boat through either the Port Security Grant or through UASC as well.
Is that the one that's stored down at the yacht club?
Yes, Point of Pines Yacht Club
Yeah.
is very gracious to give us a
They
slip.
certainly are, yeah.
And we keep that boat down there. It's the only fireboat north of Boston until you get up into Beverly.
Really?
So it was something the city never had. We have 10 miles of coastline. So I'm trying to play that up as with the 3 yacht clubs or clubs at least 4 almost within the city. It is a necessity. We could lose 10 or 15 boats versus 1. So.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry I got off tangent on that, but the grant money is coming. We've been very fortunate.
Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Powers, and Chief, we don't mind ever hearing that good news, that type of good news. So,
Right.
Council President Ira Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, for another pat in the back, you have one here. I've always been a supporter. I remember the 5 units we got in '04, I think it was, and
Yes.
we had that celebration on the beach, and we lined them up, and it was
Yeah.
so dramatic. The vision, I was with that, and it was very important and exciting. But I just want to talk about the money for a second. The turn-down equipment. You said the turnout equipment. Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't on the fire department for 32 years, so I can't.
It's all right.
I don't know the lingo.
It's our vernacular is very different anyways. Apparatus, what's apparatus? We call it a pump. You're looking, no, that's a truck. And, no, the truck is the aerial. That's a truck. All these things such as that.
So,
But this is in the old days. It was called the rubber coat, but
Okay.
now it's an ensemble.
so you're talking 20,000 for each set,
No, 2,000.
2,000 per set.
Correct.
So
And 100 sets, so $200,000.
200,000, right? Okay. Because we're asking for 1.5 million.
Correct. So the math, it was up to 1.5 million.
Okay.
I'd love to spend 1.5 million, but the
Yeah.
CFO will be watching me. But so we weren't sure with the bid price what the engines were going to cost, and as well the turnout gear, how many we'll actually need in the end, and as well as the ancillary equipment. So with the quick math that I did, we're about 1.3, almost 400,000.
That's what I count.
Yeah.
Now, is that a joint bid also, joint venture with the other cities?
The turnout gear, I'm going to try with a couple other communities that are ready to go. One community has a grant, so we're going to collectively, that's a state contract bid with that, but
Okay.
you can always get them down a couple more % when you do a collective bid, such as that, you advertise it versus just going the state bid. So we're looking at different avenues.
Right, well, we're on the same page as far as the numbers are
Okay.
concerned, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure the CFO will make sure you don't.
I'm sure too. We didn't get this far without him here.
But-
I've been haunting him for months.
I can tell you from my own personal experience, like Councilor Guanasso, that, I've had the unfortunate opportunity to have units respond to my house many times, unfortunately, because my wife, and at one time that I had that unfortunate incident on Beach Street, and when I woke up in the arms of a firefighter with Captain Ferranti, it was overwhelming. And I thank all the guys and gals on the force for all their work and their dedication.
Thank you. We constantly reinforce our firefighters that any call they go on, they treat that person like it was a member of their family, and you can't go wrong.
And they did do that.
Yeah.
And I thank you very much, and congratulations also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. Chief, just a couple of questions. One, on the equipment that you have that's aging out, do you have any pieces of equipment that you're looking at that we're going to have to replace in the next year or two?
No, one of the ladder trucks, the aerial ladder 2, is a 2004 as well. But generally, their life expectancy is up in the 14-year range. So we're still 3 or 4 years out on that.
And there's no other equipment that's coming up that the life expectancy is getting towards the end?
No. And with the CFO, we've tried to, even with the bond issue, that we're not going into double, where we are right now with the 8s, but one bond was cleared up, and that's the one we've kind of regenerated.
All right. And I guess another question I have, not necessarily for you, but for our Director of Finance, where are we in terms of, I know we're talking about 2 bonds today, one being kind of a general fund bond and the other being a water and sewer fund bond. Where does this put us as far as our capacity to bond and what our debt service is? Because I know this has been a discussion, obviously, during the McKinley School bond authorization. How close are we to our bond limit, and where does this bring us,
What it
in
does
real
do-
time?
Okay, if you remember last year, last fiscal year, you rescinded $83 million worth of bonds that were outstanding, authorized but unissued. That lowered the amount of bonds we had outstanding, and what happens is that this doesn't even bring us near the levy limit, just 1.5 million.
Is
We have
there,
quite a big capacity left.
so there's no impact on our debt service?
The impact of the debt service is only the principal and the interest that we have to pay back, and that's the only impact it'll have on our debt service. This wasn't mentioned at Moody's meetings, because I wasn't aware of it at the Moody's meetings, although we had talked about it, but I don't think they'd have a problem with 1.5 million for fire engines at all. We're not that close to our levy limit, and we have the capacity to borrow this. And looking at it, putting on a schedule, I mean, for the first year or two, this probably won't hit the principal and interest until somewhere in 2016 or 17, because of the ability to, the way we can finance it.
Yeah, and I guess my only concern or thought is that that's a year, I know, I think fiscal year 15 and 16 were tight, because that's when the McKinley bonds are going to come online,
Right.
and we're going to have, we may not at that point, but we're going to have to build another couple of schools too. And I know it's something that, we're going to have to build a new high school pretty soon, and that's something that nobody really wants to talk about, but that's going to have a significant impact on our financial outlook. But I think the amount of 1.5 and it be hitting in either 16 or 17, I think what we need to do is hope that we have a casino coming, so we can afford everything. But I have some questions about our other loan order, but we can get to that when we bring that item up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other councilors have Questions? No. I'm going to request that we report this out favorably to the full council at our next meeting. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Next item is number 13-233. CW SRF construction project emergency funding loan order in the amount of $2 million for repairs to the Winthrop Ave wastewater system. I know we have representatives from CDM Smith in the audience and the Director of Finance to speak to these issues. So I will give them a little bit of time to set up, and we'll hear from them.
Get them down there. What? I know you're not. I know you're not. What? Don't help at all.
Hi. So I'm John Doherty from CDM Smith. With me tonight is Mike Judici. He's an engineer with CDM Smith as well. Bob Button may arrive a little later. He couldn't be here right at the start of the meeting. We're here tonight to talk about the sewer collapse on Winthrop Avenue. And I think we've been to the city council meeting, I think a week ago or so, and presented a certain amount of information. We wanted to give you an update on where we stood. Since last week, we have continued to coordinate with Mass DEP. The folks at Mass DEP have indicated that they're willing to make emergency funding available. They asked that we submit some details on what had happened and a formal letter requesting that they supply emergency funding. That information has been submitted to them. They have verbally said that they believe they will approve the emergency funding, and we're waiting to hear back from them officially. Parallel with that track, Bob Button has worked directly with the city solicitor and the purchasing agent to contact the Division of Capital Asset Management and to see if they would agree that this is an emergency that allows the city to engage a contractor to execute this work without going through the amount of time it would take to put this project out to bid. And that request has been made, and we just spoke later this afternoon with Paul Capizzi, and he indicated that he had not heard back from them yet. He was going to make a call in the morning. Along the same path, we've still continued to coordinate with the MWRA because there are some large MWRA water mains above that sewer line. And we've also coordinated with the MBTA regarding bus routes and what kinds of disruption to the traffic would take place in that area. The DPW has been heavily involved in this, as has the city engineer, been working closely with them. Just today, I believe, a contractor, or the contractor who would actually do the work if permission is granted, we had him install the sewer bypass pumping equipment, and the DEP said we could do that under a change order to one of the existing contracts. So we've now got it to the point that a contractor's bypass pumping equipment is on site and being utilized, and that frees the city's bypass pumping equipment up for other emergencies or needs that may arise. I'll touch briefly again on the issue if you'd like. So on the boards that I presented left and right here, this shows Winthrop Ave, and it shows the area of the collapse, which is immediately adjacent to the field, and it's just east of the intersection of Elm Street. And again, this collapse is approximately 18 feet deep, so I'm going to show a cross-section. I'm not sure how much of this you've already seen, but for tonight's discussion, I'll put it up, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. We've seen, I think, most of this presentation, so
Okay.
I don't know if there's any new. I think probably any new updates we may want to get into that, but I think unless any committee members have any strong feeling, we've seen the majority of this, and if there's any update, I think that's what we would be looking forward to hearing about.
Okay, thank you. No, I here really to just update you on where we stood, and I think that I've just done that. So I was not here last week, but I did understand that most of this information was presented.
Any councilors? Councilor Janino.
Thank you. I think that this is an issue we've been talking about for a few weeks. It's obviously an emergency situation. This repair, even though it's going to be really tough to get through the repair, it will benefit a great percent of our city, as we've seen from the other presentations, once the project's done. So hopefully it'll prevent, sewage backups and all these other inefficiencies that people have in their homes right now once it's fixed. My only concern, I guess, is the traffic and the people that are living in that direct area, but I'm sure that there's a plan to make sure that they're well informed and everything, and that those residents know that they can contact this organization with any questions and concerns and quality of life changes that they're having throughout this difficult time, because it's going to be tough, but I think in the long run it'll benefit the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janino. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to advance it to when we get the call that Paul Capizzi will be getting tomorrow morning, all right? Once he receives that call, when are you going to be meeting with the people to establish what the timetable will be for the various information meetings for the area residents of the area?
So once we have approval from both DCAM that they can go ahead, the city can go ahead and hire the contractor who we feel is capable of doing the work, and the DEP indicates that they will provide the emergency funding that they've verbally said they will, then what we would do is we would immediately develop a plan with the contractor of when he's going to execute this work, and then we would start a program of public information both on the website, in the newspaper, and just notify as much of the city as possible, but especially make extra efforts to notify people, within several blocks of that area, or people who would use that route. We have, as I mentioned, we have been coordinating with the MBTA and also with the DCR, who controls the Revere Beach Parkway. And so we're making efforts to work with them. They understand it's an emergency. And first and foremost, once we hear, we'll get a an idea of a schedule from the contractor, and that we'll make that information available through as many means as possible to minimize confusion and disruption to people's lives.
Very good, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor Hess. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reference to the DEP emergency funding, what does that mean? They're going to advance us funds to enable us to immediately start on the project?
That's correct. What the DEP has is through their state revolving fund loan program, much in the way that the city has taken other loans for water and sewer work, the DEP maintains an emergency fund for this type of thing. So when we notified them about what had happened, they set up a conference call. Myself, Bob Button, Mike Judici from CDM, Nick Rystrom, the city engineer, and a couple of folks from DEP were on that call. We explained the situation, emphasized the emergency nature of it. They received our call favorably, and they asked us to provide some more detail, which we have provided. But this money is basically in a pool of funds that they keep basically in the back room, that if emergencies come up, they make that money available under the same terms that your SRF loan program is funded. The difference being that there would not be that principal forgiveness factor that is on the annual funds. But it basically is the same loan terms as the SRF funds that the city has been making use of.
So this loan enables us to go forward right away and eliminate the worry of where we're going to get paid from and where the source of money is coming from. That's for the city of Revere, and that's why we're here tonight, for this loan issue.
And that's exactly correct. If the DEP were to notify us tomorrow that they're going to go ahead and fund the project, we would begin to execute the required loan paperwork to do that. But as of the day they authorize us, then charges going forward from that day are covered by that project. So the example would be is right now we have the contractor who had set up his bypass equipment. That's going to be covered under a change order to an existing contract. But if the DEP were to say, yes, we agree, go ahead, it's an emergency, then in that case, from that point going forward, those expenses would be covered by the loan request that we're talking about tonight.
So the loan request we're asking for is the $2 million will be used once we get the approval from DEP that they're going to fund us initially.
That's correct, up to $2 million. And that up to $2 million is based on an estimate that we've done of what the construction costs would be, the police costs would be, the resident engineering costs would be. And
that was going to be the nature of my next question. How did you come up with $2 million? How would you know that this is what this project is going to go for?
So what we did is we took a look at, we had gone out and done some borings in the area to confirm where the rock depths were and also the water condition, so we would understand that. We're seeking to avoid some of the existing utilities that are in the road, but using that information, doing a preliminary design for the sewer, selecting a size and a slope, and to get out to tie into the main interceptor that's in the middle of the Revere Beach Parkway. So taking all that information as a preliminary design, really, or even if I'll back off and say more as a conceptual design, we went to our internal cost estimators. They developed a number that was in the $1.2 million range. We added a contingency to that because there are some unknowns about how's it really going to go, what are we really going to do, because we still need to develop a little more detailed drawings and information. And so we think that the construction cost is the 1.4, 1.5 million. We added for police, we added for some resident inspection.
My assumption was that you advanced the amount that was required based on the fact that, you don't have any givens, a guesstimate at best, but you advanced it to a position where you don't think you'd have to come back to us for any more money.
That's correct. That's what we did. We went to our internal cost estimators who put estimates on the regular projects that we go out. So when we put a project together, if the project is 20 or 30% complete in terms of a design, they carry a larger contingency. The closer we get to 100% design, the better, or the, you know, the more reliable. Is
More
the
accurate,
number.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bob, what do you anticipate the duration of this project from start to finish will be? And I'm concerned basically about the residents that live down there on Harris Street and Elm Street and an entire Immaculate Conception area, which is part of Ward 5.
I think I'm going to let Mike Judici answer that question. Mike?
Thanks, John. Yes, Councilor. We've, as John said, once we get the final approval, we'll go to the contractor and have him develop a schedule. Our estimates at this point are probably looking at a 3-month construction period.
So we could be very well running into the holiday season down there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Just due to the depth of the sewer and the other utility conflicts.
You're going to have a neighborhood meeting set up down there at some point?
We've talked about having at least one, if not more, neighborhood meetings before construction starts to let people know what's going to happen, how they're going to be impacted, and what we're going to do to mitigate those impacts.
Yeah, my concern is that there's enough money in that authorization that you're here this evening for to make sure that the traffic down there is impacted at least as possible, so that residents down there can keep their life somewhat normal with regard to getting to and from their homes or their employment or wherever they may be going. And I trust that all these things will be discussed at that initial meeting with the residents down there, and all of the residents will be notified by some type of literature and a reverse 911 call, because I don't want to see this get to a situation where anyone in that area down there all of a sudden gets up some morning and finds out they can't get up the street or down the street, and you know, they're late getting to work, to some doctor's appointment or someplace that they may have to go. So that's comforting to know that there will be that meeting, and I myself would like to be notified when that meeting is, so that I can attend and make sure that the residents down there are represented. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, although I'm the Ward 6 councilor, I actually grew up on Victoria Street, right up the top, by the Lake Park there, and I still got, it was my grandfather's house. My sister still lives there with her nieces and her grandchildren. And I got several friends that I grew up with still in that area, and I've been getting some phone calls, and I'm just concerned now, is the job going to go, it's going to go all the way to Revere Beach Parkway, if I'm correct?
Correct.
And all the way to Broadway?
This project, the specific project that we're talking about, will stop just before Victoria, just beyond the intersection of Elm, and Mike is putting up a drawing that shows the planned limits of work right now. And what will happen is, in the future, we will go all the way back to Broadway. So the long-term plan is to improve that pipe in future years, be it 2 years or 3 years from now, to go further back to Broadway. But this initial project starts just west of the intersection of Elm Street, in between Elm and Victoria, if you will.
Yes.
And then it continues to Revere Beach Parkway.
Okay. All right, so that, I mean, you're talking the hole's going to be open just to finish this job to the Parkway?
Correct. From, yep, it's just to the east of Victoria.
Right.
And just to the west of Elm, it'll start, and then it'll continue down to Revere Beach Parkway and tie in, and that would be it. We're not going west of that starting location. I think the city may go west of there in some future year, because that line does need to be enlarged back towards Broadway, but that's not part of this effort.
Okay, I just got a couple more questions. Now, as far as the $2 million with this emergency funding that you're looking into now, the original, when you made the, at the public meeting, you said that we would get money back on the principal, I believe?
On the regular SRF loans, Revere falls into the category of a community that gets principal forgiveness.
Right.
So depending on how much funds are available year in and year out, Revere may get 8, 10, 12, 14% forgiveness on that principal. But that's on the regular loans that you go through, put out to bid the normal way, and award by every April 1st. It follows a specific DEP schedule. These emergency funds are out of the same pool, but they don't go by those rules. So this $2 million, there will not be principal forgiveness.
But wouldn't it be cheaper for us to wait on the original loans and get some principal back?
Well, the issue with waiting on the original loans is the amount of time it would take to do the design, go out to bid, continue to pay the bypass pumping costs, continue to pay police details. So it's, I don't know, I would have to run those numbers to say whether it was a wash or actually more. But right now, the police details are substantial. The cost to run the bypass pumping equipment is substantial. And the bigger problem is to go ahead and do that design and try to get under the existing loan program. By the time you do the design, get a contractor on the board, that contractor then has to have a contract awarded. He would then be starting a process that would start the moment we're notified we can go ahead. Because one of the things that has to be done out there is the MWRA is going to cooperate because their water mains are right there and they recognize this as an emergency. But one of the things the MWRA wants right away is they want the contractor to submit a plan to support the excavation. So when the contractor is digging a hole 18 feet deep next to the MWRA's 24-inch and 16-inch water mains, they want to know that those water mains aren't going to move. So the point being is that if we were to try to follow the normal procedures for awarding this job, you're not starting construction until next spring.
Which contractor are you looking at?
Right now, we've been speaking with Albanese D&S, who is
they do good work.
Rather large pipeline contractor.
I'm familiar with them.
And so they've subbed on some projects. They were subbed to some other contractors who were doing work in the city, but we also have experience with them on other large utility projects. And we basically asked them to come in and look at this. And to this point, they've been cooperative. And of course, there's a reason for that. They would like an opportunity to execute this job. But in our minds, they're also the kind of contractor who is extremely capable of executing this without problems.
Right. I just got, you mentioned the MWRA. I am a little familiar with when they do some of these, how deep that they have to go down here, and those pipes, sometimes those gas lines or water lines are on top of sewer lines or reverse or whatever. And what are the conditions of the MWRA lines? So is there a chance that they might have to replace those and they maybe help us out a little bit in the money?
Yeah. The MWRA did not indicate they had any intention of doing work on those lines. What they did indicate was that one of the two lines, they could possibly shut it down, basically close valves at either end and take the pressure off that line were there to be a problem. But the other line they did not want to close. And if we were to break either a 16 or a 24-inch there, we would, at best, would only fill up the park with water. And, it's just the way that side hill is on the park and some other stuff there. So that's one of the reasons that we consider this emergency. If we were over in another alignment away from the MWRA lines, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. We would have talked to the DEP. They would have said, you can just do this as a change order. They might have offered to increase one of your loan amounts, but it's just the way things are, that those two particular water mains are basically directly above the sewer line.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Patch. Council President Ira Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to thank you for moving this Ways and Means Committee up this quickly. so we can schedule an early public hearing next week and hopefully vote on this right after the public hearing next week, so everybody will know what's going on right off the bat, and we don't have that delay to make it go further. But, John, just a couple questions. Now, you kind of answered one of the questions about that we're just fixing this particular location. Plus
a little bit, right. So, do you want me to go into that, or?
No, that's okay, because, but one of the additional onto this, now, are we putting it back in the same spot, or are we bypassing it?
So what the project does is to get away from the MWA water mains, to be able to execute the work, we're actually going to go into the other travel lane. So we would be going into the, I believe it's the westbound travel lane on that roadway. So the MWA mains are on the eastbound side, closest to the field. And what we're going to do is from the manhole, from the location that we start, we'll have one section where we connect into a manhole and bring out a pipe at more or less a 90-degree angle to get into the other travel lane. And then we're going to run the 900 feet down, approximately, the total run is about 900 feet. We'll run down Winthrop Ave, and then we'll get into the little island at the end of Winthrop and the Revere Beach Parkway, and that's a location where we'll dig a jacking pit. And then we don't intend to open cut or dig up the Revere Beach Parkway, and then we'll get out into the median strip of the parkway.
Will a 90 be sufficient for the flow?
Yeah, the 90 will be sufficient. I mean, when we get into the final design, if we could reduce that a little bit, if we could make that a 45 or a 22, we would do that. But at these flows and the velocities that the water is typically flowing in the large diameter pipe, there isn't much of a loss or a restriction there for what we're talking about. It's a little different if you were in a pressure pipe where you had pipelines running, like the water mains running around, or water pipes in your house, but where this is a gravity pipe, doing that 90-degree bend is not anything that's not normally done.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like we're going to have to close that section of Winthrop Ave completely at one point.
I'm going to let Mike answer that question. Mike's been working more directly on the detailed design.
Yes, Councilor. For the time being, that section of Winthrop would have to be closed just due to the depth of the sewer and the other utilities in the area.
And how do we handle the local residents in there?
So there will be, as Councilor Powers had indicated before, there is a traffic management plan that we're developing now. The contractor is going to have to abide by. And one of the fortunate things in the area that this happened, there were only 4 residences in that stretch. There is a daycare facility, there is an elderly housing facility out toward Revere Beach Parkway. So we obviously need to be cognizant of maintaining access to those facilities. So it's fortunate that it's not a more densely residential neighborhood because of the nature of the field on the other side.
Right, so we will have to redirect traffic down Victoria, or before that, down Elm to bypass in the easterly, on the eastbound side. The westbound side, we'll probably have to go down Harris Street and come down one of the side streets there I know the big problem is going to be the MBTA.
Correct, and as John mentioned, we have started discussions with them to coordinate. There is a bus route that would have to be rerouted. The exact details of the traffic management plan are still being worked out as we move through this process, but clearly that's something that we'll be prepared to engage the public on when the time comes.
Well, I do plan on voting in favor of this when the time comes, and I'm sure my other colleagues feel the same way, that this is an emergency that you really don't like to get into at times, and we have to put in a few extra bucks into it. But in this case, I think it's worth it. It's going to save us in the long run some labor in the future for when we do the extending the line. But I think it's important, and I hope that all my colleagues that are here tonight, and even those that may be listening right now, that vote in favor of this thing next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. I have a couple of questions. How much money have we spent so far? Because I know this project has been going on for a couple of weeks now, at least a week. So that money that is being spent on the project now, is it going to be covered under this loan? Is that
the money that's spent on the project to date, the items that have been going on to date, what we've done is the construction-related stuff or the work related to some of the investigations. The DEP agreed that this is an emergency, and we can pick some of that up where there is budget left over in some of the existing ongoing projects, in some of that. But they will not allow you to charge anything to the job until they say go. And so that would be hopefully sometime this week. The other thing is that on SRF loan programs, the design costs are not covered by those loan programs, so it's only the construction-related costs. So our program management contract with the city, we have available funds, if you will, for design-related activities, and that's where we're picking up the cost related to putting together preliminary design, doing some cost estimates and all. As far as I could, at the next meeting or another time, I could give you a breakdown of, since this occurred, what is the engineering-related costs. I know that we received an invoice from the police department for police details, and I want to say that was in excess of $10,000 or $12,000, and I'm not sure of the period on that. Yeah, it may have been somewhere between a week and a half and 2 weeks, but they were round-the-clock police details, and the police forwarded us that information. We're working out how those, will get paid. We're just working out from which pool of funds can it be paid from. That's why, on our end too, we're also looking forward to the DEP saying, we agree, and effective a certain date, you can now pick up costs on the new loan.
right? And part of the $2 million covers the police details that we're projecting out for the project going forward.
Correct.
Okay. So, if we're talking about a 3-month period for this project, do we have any idea about how long the Winthrop Ave will be closed? Like out of the 3 months, are we talking about like a week, or are we talking?
No, I think we're talking closer to the entire time. I think what's going to happen is for example, when they're starting the work closer to Elm, there may be provisions made so the people who are living in those homes on the side opposite the park, that they can still come in the other way and get to their property. And of course, neither we nor the MWRA wants the contractor to keep that trench open all the time. There'll be literally just some minimum distance that basically we and the MWRA and some of our geotechnical engineers agreed to as a length of open excavation. So as they go down the road, they will be backfilling. It'll be bumpy, it'll be rough, it may not be suitable pavement, but once the MBTA and the traffic plan is in place, I think you can expect that that'll be for more or less the full duration of the work.
Okay. And this might be more of a question for our Director of Finance, but has there been any consideration of using water and sewer stabilization money to help kind of lessen the blow? Since we're not getting any type of break on the emergency funds that we're going to get, what are we looking at as far as a impact on the ratepayer? Is there going to be a stabilization, any stabilization, water and sewer stabilization money used to try and cover this?
Okay. To answer that question, there's a number of questions in that. One of them, first off, is there going to be an impact to the ratepayer? Yes, there is going to be an impact to the ratepayer because it's done through the loan program that's being done. It's a lower interest loan than if I had to go out into the market and borrow the funds that way. So there will be an impact to the ratepayers. As far as the stabilization fund, it hasn't been considered to use a stabilization fund. I don't have my balance sheet with me to tell you, or my sheets with me to tell you what the amount of the stabilization fund is at the time. However, there hasn't been any discussion about that, and I don't think it's an awful lot of money, to be honest with you. I think our free cash and free cash last year in the water and sewer, don't quote me on this, but I think it was under a couple $100,000, so it wasn't an awful lot of money.
Yeah, I knew there was I think there might have been like 500,000 up to maybe $1 million, but I didn't know if there was any conversation, since we have that water and sewer stabilization money, this is going to be an impact on the ratepayer. Maybe using that money might lessen the blow a little bit.
Well, it might, but at the same time is that we don't know whether new revenues may be coming into the city in the near future, so I guess that's one of the reasons why it wasn't discussed. Okay.
And do you have any idea what the impact is going to be? I know.
No, I don't, because
It's kind of tough, and it would be, it all depends also on, something could happen, unfortunately, and the $2 million we might need more than $2 million. So
more than $2 million. But
for the $2 million, there's no, per ratepayer, what we figure that might end up costing.
No, we haven't done that.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Mr. Chairman, just one question to our Finance Director. I know we have a lot of police details in this thing, and it's been going, like you said, since the beginning. How long is it going to take these guys to get paid?
Well, as soon as they put in the payrolls, as long as they're in order, we have an account that the city puts money aside on up to the $100,000. They usually get paid pretty quickly when it's the city end. So I don't think it's going to be an awful long time. I just don't know where they are according to their reserve fund. If they've used it, or if they haven't used it, they get paid immediately.
So if they have used it, they won't get paid immediately?
Well, unless there's some other arrangement, I have no other vehicle to do it from. However, the loan itself, there's no anything on the municipal law that allows me to pay them, because it's the reserve account that it's $100,000 that they get paid out of. And we raised it this year. We raised that this year.
Right. Yeah, because, I know there's been...
I don't want to say it publicly.
Yeah.
I don't know. The answer would be, I don't know. Are they going to be paid right away? We'll pay them as quickly as we can. We don't withhold any money from them. And that, the city will do the best they can to pay them.
Because I know I have, there's been issues in the past about, delayed payments from certain people working details, and I just don't, want to see anybody spending all that time standing in the rain and sleet and heat and not get paid for it in a reasonable amount of time.
We try to pay them as quickly as we can. We do. The city does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. Councilor Patch.
Thank you. I just got one more question. We're listening to the information about closing Winthrop Avenue, John. Those houses that are across from Little League Park, we actually, all of us know a person that actually lives there. She's very concerned. They're gonna just close it down completely? That part from Elm Street to the Parkway?
I think what would happen is that the MBTA, in terms of their bus route, once they make a commitment to reroute that would happen. That would be rerouted. But what I want to say is that when you're in the Elm Street area and say the contractor begins his excavation and he starts to move east, there's no reason that local residents local to that specific stretch wouldn't be able to come in the other way until such time as the contractor got out in front of their property, if you will. So again, the contractor is going to have a limited stretch of trench open at any one time. Once he goes through and he backfills, he'll put like a temporary pavement down. Some of his construction equipment may be there. So as he goes down the road, we will not be as eager to open the area he just passed. But as he's moving, from whatever, from west to east, if you will, or the other way, whatever degree is possible to let residents continue accessing their property, we would do that.
Well,
That would be part of the plan. Our goal is to make it the least amount of pain for the people who live there.
I know you will, but just hopefully you'll keep them well informed.
Absolutely, and what we would
Day to day.
Yes, and one of the things that our resident engineer is tasked with doing is to maintain communications on a project like that. When so a lot of the work we've been doing in the city is kind of all over the place, and a lot of it is underground work, and they may be working from manhole to manhole. And so people don't get as impacted on a project like this where it's a set project area for a steady amount of time. Our resident engineer will become first name basis with the neighbors in that area, and they'll regularly say, okay, this is what's going to happen this week, this is what's going to happen next week. And if they want to come out and talk with our resident engineer, they'd be happy to tell them what's going on. I mean, we think that that's important for us to maintain communication so people know what's going on. If they know what's going on, they're a little more comfortable with the situation. One point that Bob Button just mentioned to me that I don't think I touched on talking earlier is we've also been coordinating with the gas company, and the gas company has a 100-year-old gas main in the street there as well. So we've been pushing them, and the city's been pushing them to let them know that they actually have to move that gas line and do something about it before winter. They can't drag their feet. It's got to get out of the way if the contractor starts going. So there's a possibility that once we get the go-ahead and we notify the gas company that this is really going to happen, they may come in ahead and move that gas line. So that they may get in there a week or two ahead of the contractor. But again, we will notify everybody, as if that's going to occur. Sure.
Great.
Sorry. Good evening. I'm sorry I was downstairs.
No problem.
I just wanted to say, too, that there will be a public meeting that's held. Several of the councilors did ask for that, and the mayor reinforced that. As soon as we have these last couple of details worked out, there will be a reverse 911 call and a public meeting held for folks in that neighborhood.
Great, thank you. Any other councilors have any issues? Okay, we will report this out the committee will report this out favorably to the full council at our next meeting. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. With that, I will close our Ways and Means Subcommittee meeting. Thank you.